If you've ever shiny hunted in Pokémon Scarlet and Violet, then you've probably used many ingredients to make different types of sandwiches to boost your shiny odds. Since the games came out, you may have seen images such as these that show you what specific ingredients you need to add sparkling power to the type of Pokémon that you want to shiny hunt. Sometimes these sandwiches can be tricky to stack, and other times they can be just downright frustrating. But what if I told you there's a way you can make the perfect sandwich for every type without even having to put anything on the bread? Introducing the rice drop method. Now, before I go any further, if you simply want to skip this next explanation and go straight for the typing you want ingredients for, then here are all the timestamps in this video that will take you to where you want to go. Without further ado, let's continue. Now, the rice drop method was a term originally coined on my Twitch stream while we were hunting shiny family of 3 Mousehold. For those who weren't around for it, it took me 186 days and 333 shiny Tandemaus to find the elusive 3 fam. Yes! Yes! And in that time, I learned how to make the hunt as optimal as possible, including the sandwich making. While experimenting with ingredients off stream, I wanted to find something that was quick but powerful, and that's when I landed on using rice. Now, when you're designing a sandwich, you're forced to choose at least one ingredient from each of the 2 selection screens before you're actually able to make it. Most ingredients in the game require you to place 3 and in some cases 4 bits of that ingredient per serve onto the bread. Rice, however, is one of the few options you can choose from that only has 1 ingredient per serve, therefore cutting sandwich making time down by 66%. Rice is also a very neutral ingredient when it comes to typing. In most cases, you get normal typing buffs when making a sandwich with rice, but with certain tweaks, you can get any typing. More on that in a minute. In a nutshell, the rice drop method is this. Step 1, choose rice as your only ingredient, as well as your condiments. Step 2, when making the sandwich, discard the rice and bread onto the picnic table. Step 3, enjoy your perfect sandwich. Now, this method obviously involves using any 2 combinations of Herba Mystica. Now, if you don't know, using 2 Herba Mystica will always guarantee you Sparkling and Tidal Power level 3. They're kind of intertwined with one another, while the third buff is dependent on what combination of Herba Mystica you actually used. While playing around with rice and mixing it with the 15 different combinations you can get by adding 2 Herba Mystica together, it became clear to me that most of the time you do not in fact even need to put the rice on the bread to get the desired effects you want. In fact, while researching normal type sandwiches, 13 out of the 15 combinations I tried yielded the exact same result, regardless of whether or not I put the rice on the bread. I added my findings into this table here. This was when we were doing the Mousehold hunt. As you can see, with the 2 sweet Herba Mystica combination as well as the salty and sour combination in the red there, those were the only 2 instances I found where putting the rice on the bread actually delivered a different result. After playing around a bit more, it was clear that we were onto something. Could we select just rice and not even use it to create a perfect sandwich for each type? The answer is yes. So if your list of ingredients looks like this, sell everything and invest in rice, because that's all you'll ever need. Now again, for all 18 of these demonstrations I'm about to show, you do not need to put the rice on the bread. If you do, you may not get the desired sandwich buff, and the typing can even change in some circumstances. Now to start off, this table here in one image shows the condiments you need to add with the rice to get the certain types while making the sandwich, while the following 18 tables will show the Herba Mystica combinations you will need to determine what your third sandwich power will be. All of these can be found on my Discord, link in the bio, in the sandwich ingredients channel. Now the first table here is normal typing, which is essentially the same table you saw earlier with the Tandemaus. With the rice drop method with normal type, you don't need any other things to add, just the rice and the 2 Herba Mystica. You can get almost every possible perfect sandwich with just the rice and Herba Mystica, minus Humungo Power, the power that makes Pokemon more likely to be larger on the size scale. Should you want Humungo Power, maybe you have a mass outbreak where you don't need encounter power, just add horseradish as a condiment to the rice as well. Condiments get added automatically with the Herba Mystica, so again, all you need to do is drop the rice and the bread and you're done. A few other condiments work instead of horseradish, but just for simplicity, just stick with this to avoid confusion. But as you can see, we've highlighted Encounter, Teensy, and Humungo because those are the ones you'd probably want most of the time. Obviously, Salty Salty there has Encounter Power, as does Spicy Salty and Salty Sour, and obviously Teensy is Spicy Sour, Sour Bitter, and Humungo down the bottom with the 3 combinations of Spicy plus Sour, Salty, or Bitter. Now moving on on, we have bug typing. This was the only type out of the 18 I tested that gives you a choice of condiments. In this case, we can either choose butter or cream cheese to mix with the rice to get bug typing. Looking at the Herba Mystica combinations, they are exactly the same as normal typing. So raid power is still 2 spices, 2 bitters is still item power, salty is encounter power, etc. The only difference is humongo power. You actually get 4 different types of combinations of herba you can use to get humongo power, but you do have to add curry powder this time instead of horseradish. Moving on to water type. So this is where things took a turn. Chili sauce is what we need to add to the rice to get water typing, and interestingly, we can get every 3rd power without actually needing any other condiment. So humongo power, you see there, works with 2 spicy. It also works with spicy salty, spicy sour, and spicy bitter. So yeah, if you want to do a humongo power sandwich with water, you do have a lot of options. You've obviously got a few options for encounter power there, as well as teensy power, and of course raid, XP, egg, catching, etc. Next up is electric type, where we add jam to the rice to get electric typing. It's mostly the same as normal and bug, minus a few slight differences. And with humongo power, you do get 4 options of Herba Mystica combinations to get it. You do have to have wasabi, or in one case with a spicy there, salt. Next, we have flying type, and this is where you need ketchup. So again, make a sandwich, choose rice, ketchup, 2 Herba Mysticas, and that's all you need to do. You don't need to put the rice on the bread, and you'll get one of these 15 different types of combinations here. Now, luckily again, humongo power is back with the main ingredients here, so you don't need to add any extra condiments. Humongo power seems to be tied a lot with spicy combination of herba, but in this case for flying, that is the only Herba Mystica combination that will yield you humongo power. Obviously, you got XP power, encounter, teensy, and egg there with the double ups of Herba Mysticas, and then the 10 other combinations of Herba Mystica down the bottom there will give you all those encounter powers, teensy powers, etc. Now, fighting type was an interesting one. We have to mix it with marmalade to get fighting typing when we make the sandwich, and again, we don't need to use the rice. There does seem to be a lot of item power and XP power involved in the sandwich making process of this one, but luckily we do still get humongo power with spicy, and we do have the option of teensy and encounter power as well. So if you want any fighting types, those are your combinations. You don't need anything else other than the rice and the marmalade. Now, ground typing was an interesting one. In this case, we need to add mustard with the rice to get ground type sandwiches. There is a lot of humongo power in this one. We have spicy, spicy salty, spicy sour, and spicy bitter. This was the first case when anything other than humongo power wasn't included in the original 15 combinations of Herba Mystica there. In the case for egg power, you do have to add peanut butter to the rice and the mustard to get egg power. You don't actually really need egg power because there's no typing associated with it, so I don't know why you would need this, but just because it's the only one not there, I decided to add it. And in this case, it's mostly tied to sweet Herba Mystica if you want egg power for whatever reason with ground power at the same time. Next up, we have ghost type, and in this case, you need to add olive oil when choosing the rice to get ghost typing when making the sandwich. And again, to reiterate, like always, you do not need to put the rice on the sandwich, otherwise you may get different results. But again, you have humongo power with spicy, you've got your encounters, your teensies, and that's all you really need again. But of course, if you want something like raid power to get more herba from certain raids, then be my guest, you can do spicy and sweet down the bottom there. Now, steel type, you need peanut butter when choosing the rice and the herba, and that'll go on the bread. Chuck the rice off the bread, and you'll get steel type with all these combinations down below. This is another example where you get a lot of encounter and teensy, but you don't have any humongo power with the original 15 combinations here. But for humongo power, this is an interesting one. So you still need the rice and the peanut butter, and again, don't chuck the rice on the bread, but you do get a few different options of the additional condiment you need to get humongo power. You can choose to add with the peanut butter chili sauce or curry powder or pepper or wasabi to get humongo power. With spicy, bitter, and spicy sour there, any of the 4 additional ingredients work with this combination, while spicy and salty only curry powder or wasabi work with this combination. So for example, if you wanted humongo power with spicy and salty, you would choose rice, peanut butter, and curry powder, or rice, peanut butter, and wasabi. It's a little complicated, so maybe just choose spicy bitter or spicy sour. Next, we have ice type, which requires pepper as the secret ingredient when making the sandwich. This is another example where we can get so much humongo power from the combinations of herba. So you've got spicy there, you've got spicy salty, you got spicy sour, and you got spicy bitter. And this is also one of the other examples where egg power isn't included in the original 15 combinations there. So if you wanted to add egg power for whatever reason with ice typing, you would choose rice and pepper as usual, but also add jam or yogurt with the combinations below. So you've got sweet and salty there, or sweet and bitter. Again, I don't know why you would need it, because egg power, you'd just be sitting in your camp wasting your sparkling power, but you know, there it is if you want it. Next up, we have psychic type, which requires vinegar to be added with the rice and the herba to get psychic sandwiches. Again, we don't need anything else here, we have Humungo Power with the Spicy, and we've got a mixture of Encounter Power and Teensy Power. A good one to remember for Encounter Power here is Salt and Vinegar. So you got Vinegar obviously adding for the Psychic type, and Salty for Encounter. So if you wanted to hunt anything powerful that was Psychic in Area 0, just remember Rice, Vinegar, throw the Rice away, and add 2 Salty Herba Mystica, or a Spicy and a Salty. Next up, we have Dark type, and in this situation, you pick Yogurt with the Rice and the Herba to get the Dark typing. The third power here is exactly the same as normal typing. So normal typing, you had Raid for Spicy, Item for Bitter, etc. So it's the exact same, except obviously when you're using Yogurt, you'll get the Dark type instead, which is amazing. Humungo Power is the exact same 3 combinations of Herba Mystica if you want it as normal type, but instead of horseradish like we use for normal, you'd be using wasabi. So again, if you wanted a Humungo Power Dark type sandwich, chuck on Spicy Sour, Spicy Salty, or Spicy Bitter with wasabi, and you'll get Humungo Power. Fantastic. Now at this point we have 6 types to go: Grass, Fire, Rock, Poison, Dragon, and Fairy. And this is where things got a little complicated, because in these situations for these 6 specific types, you need to add 2 condiments with the rice to get the type that you want. It's very weird, it's very involved, so just roll with it. So for Grass type here, you got rice, but then you have to pick chili sauce and olive oil. Obviously, if you pick or, it's not going to work. Olive oil, as we've learned, gives you ghost. Chili sauce, as we've learned, gives you water. So yeah, for this situation, you have to pick chili sauce and olive oil, and then you'll get grass type. If not, lettuce would be your best option if you haven't got rice, but you know, you should have rice by now. So yeah, you pick chili sauce and olive oil and the rice, chuck it on the ground, and you get any of these. And thankfully, there's a bit of Humungo Power involved, so you don't need any other combinations here, because you can't actually add any more condiments. You have 2 herba, and you have your chili and olive oil. You can't have anything else on that side of the selection screen, so you only get 4 slots to fill. Next, as we alluded to before, we have Fire type. So for this one, you need to choose the rice, peanut butter, and olive oil. So you're still choosing the olive oil, which is nice, but yeah, peanut butter will give you Fire typing. And again, do not put the rice on the bread, otherwise things might change. This is the only time where we have kind of messed up. There is no possible way, with this combination at least, to get Humungo Power for Fire with this method, unfortunately. As mentioned, you can only have 4 slots on the condiment selection screen, and they are taken up at the moment with peanut butter, olive oil, and the 2 herba. Maybe there's a way to get Humungo Power with the rice method, but I couldn't find it, and at this point, it doesn't really matter. Not many people would be going for Humungo Power, but if you wanted to, then maybe do the original method with red peppers. The red peppers are good for fire, and you can do certain Herba Mystica combinations to get Humungo Power that way. One good option for you is to choose red pepper. You get 3 bits of red pepper to put on the bread. You only need to put 1 on the bread, and then choose 2 spicy Herba Mysticas. So that's your alternative option without the rice drop method. Technically, it's the red bell pepper drop method. Next up, we have Rock type, and this is the most annoying one of the 18 types, because you can't get Encounter Power with the rice drop method, similar to how we couldn't get Humungo Power with Fire. So in this case, we have rice, mustard, and marmalade. Again, chuck the rice off the bread, and you'll get Rock type. And you have a lot of options for Humungo and Teensy Power here, but sadly, with the 4 condiment selection options being taken up by the mustard, marmalade, and 2 Herba Mystica, there is no other way with the rice drop method to get Encounter Power. So I've added it down here. The alternative way to get Encounter Power level 3 Rock is to use bacon instead of rice. Bacon is universally known as the ingredient used to get Rock type, but again, similar to Fire and the red peppers, you only need 1, so you get 3 bits of bacon per serve, chuck 2 of them on the table, and put 1 on the bread. And then with one of these 3 combinations, either salty sour, salty spicy, or salty sweet, with the bacon, you'll get Encounter Power level 3 Rock. A bit unfortunate that that's the only one without Encounter Power, but you know, bacon is your backup option. If you wanted Teensy or Humungo, you don't need the bacon at all. Just stick with mustard, marmalade, and rice, throw it off the table, and you're done. Thankfully, these last 3 types are all pretty easy and very basic with the rice drop method. This is Poison type. You need ketchup and marmalade, and again, don't chuck the rice on the bread and you'll get Poison typing. Obviously, spicy there gets you Humungo Power level 3 Poison. You've got salty with Encounter Power, and those other options down the bottom for Encounter and Teensy. So again, a very easy sandwich to make, like a lot of them are with the rice drop method. So yeah, if you want a Poison type, that is your best option: ketchup and marmalade. Coming in at second to last, we have Dragon type, and in this situation, you need to pick pepper and vinegar when choosing rice. Obviously, don't put the rice on the bread, and you'll get Dragon type sandwiches. With Dragon, you have many different options for Humungo Power, Teensy Power, and one option only for Encounter Power, that is salty. So thankfully, we have all the ones we need there. You got catching, raid, egg, etc. Not a bad sandwich to make. If you want to go up the mountain and hunt Frigibacks, for example, that is an easy sandwich to make for you. So good luck with that one. And let's move on to the last type. Last but not least, you've guessed it, it's fairy type. So with this typing, you need rice, yogurt, and vinegar. And of course, when you make the sandwich, chuck the rice on the table and you'll get fairy type sandwiches. There are a few slight differences with fairy type compared to dragon type, but all in all, it's mostly the same. You're still going to have spicy for humongo power, you're still going to have salty for encounter power, and you still have a few teensy options with salty and sour, spicy and sour and bitter. And with that, that is all 18 types done with the rice drop method. So what did we learn? Despite Pokemon Scarlet and Violet having a very in-depth sandwich making system, in almost all of the situations here, choosing just rice as the only ingredient you can physically pick up and move around will be the only one that you'll ever need. While this method may not be for everyone, maybe you'd like to stick with what you know, that is fine. I found it very helpful during my shiny family of 3 Mousehold hunt, as it cut the sandwich making times down immensely and allowed me to get back to the hunt a lot quicker. And hey, if you are new to the game, give the rice drop method a go. You might like it. But if you found this video interesting and want to see more Pokemon content from me, click that subscribe and thumbs up button to stay up to date. If you want to see more, all my links are in the description below, including to my Twitch, where I'm currently shiny hunting the Pokemon channel Jirachi in Pokemon Sapphire. My name is Hylianstagram, but you can call me Matt, and as always, may all your shiny hunts be quick. Take care.